Welcome. So picture this, a massive Boeing 747 sitting in a courtroom on trial. I'm not talking about the pilot or the airline, I'm talking about the actual multi-ton machine itself. It sounds totally wild, right? But today we're diving into the bizarre legal world where the law literally goes head-to-head with the airplane. What really happens if an aircraft breaks the law? Again, not the people flying it, but the hunk of metal itself. It seems impossible, but under US federal law, it's a very real thing, and it has led to some of the most advanced machines in the world being grounded.
And this all leads us to a really fascinating legal concept, which I'm calling the plane on trial. We're about to unpack how the law uses this clever, kind of weird fiction to put an actual airplane in the defendant's chair, just as if it were a person.
So how does this even work? Well, it's all thanks to a legal trick called personification. The law basically just pretends the aircraft is a responsible party, making it the offender in a legal violation. It's this little legal sleight of hand that allows the government to sue the plane directly. You might be wondering, where in the world did this strange idea even come from? Well, as it turns out, aviation law didn't just invent this out of thin air. Nope. It borrowed the whole trick from a much, much older field, the high seas.
Yeah, for centuries, ships have been subject to arrest to settle legal claims. Aviation law just looked at that and said, hey, that'll work for us too. And the logic is the same. The asset, whether it's a ship or a plane, is super mobile and could easily sail or fly out of reach of the court. Okay, so there's a fancy legal term for all this. It's called in rem jurisdiction. In rem is just Latin for against a thing. So instead of suing the owner, the person, the lawsuit is filed directly against the property. In our case, the airplane. The court's power is literally over the plane itself. And here's a really great way to think about it. A perfect analogy from the source material. It's like treating an aircraft as a debtor who cannot leave town. The plane itself is the collateral, making sure its owner has to show up and deal with whatever penalty is on the table. So how does the government actually arrest an airplane? It's not like they can slap handcuffs on the wings, right? Well, it's a very specific three-step legal process. Okay, so first it starts with a lien. That's just a legal claim against the plane because of an unpaid penalty. From there, things can escalate pretty quickly. The government can physically seize the aircraft. And the final step, taking it to court by filing that in rem action we just talked about, suing the plane to collect the debt. And you should know, this isn't some obscure loophole someone dug up. This power is explicitly granted by Congress. It's laid out right there in the Federal Aviation Act of 1958, which is a cornerstone of aviation law. And for any of you legal eagles out there who want to dive into the fine print, the specific statutes are right there in Title 49 of the U.S. Code. That's where you'll find all the nitty-gritty rules for how these liens and seizures are supposed to work. But as you can imagine, seizing a multi-million-dollar asset without a hearing is a huge deal. And this power hasn't gone unchallenged. The courts have had to step in and draw a line in the sand to decide when this powerful tool goes a little too far. And this is where it gets really interesting. The courts made a crucial distinction. In one case, the government seized a helicopter just to make it easier to collect a fine. The court called it financial convenience, and they ruled that was unconstitutional. But in another case, the plane had safety issues, and there, the court said the seizure was justified to protect the public. So what's the bottom line? The why matters. A lot. The courts see a big difference between seizing a plane just to secure a debt versus seizing a plane that might actually be a danger to public safety. So because of these court battles, the FAA had to go back and clarify its own policies, and that's led to a much more careful, much more restrained approach to how they use this power today. So today, the FAA's official policy is that seizing a plane is a last resort. They'll really only do it in two specific situations. One, the owner is broke and can't pay the fine with other assets. Or two, the FAA thinks the owner is about to fly the plane out of the country to get away from the law. And that really brings us full circle. The whole point of this bizarre legal concept isn't just to punish people. It's a really powerful, practical tool to make sure there's accountability when you're dealing with assets that are both incredibly valuable and can vanish over the horizon in a few hours. This whole legal idea of personification, it started with ships, it was adapted for planes, which raises a massive question for our future. As we move into an age of self-driving cars, autonomous drones, you name it, how is the law going to decide who or what is ultimately responsible when things go wrong? That's a question we're all going to be dealing with very, very soon.